organization works in areas of natural disaster, post-conflict, and areas of dire need. And quite often when people go to these areas, they see blight, despair, they see negativity. But when an architect or an engineer goes into these neighborhoods, they see opportunity and a responsibility to do something that's transformative. And so this idea of kind of slow design, working incrementally with the community, can really enhance and empower quite literally millions of people. So I co-founded the organization in 1999. I'm a recovering architect. I worked here in New York as an architect. I did fancy buildings. I was restoring Brancusi monuments in Romania, and I was also working in the World Trade Center during 9/11 and helped in the recovery of a number of my clients there. And so I was a New York architect. I dressed nicer. Since leaving New York, both my fashion sense but also my ego left me, which is good. I dedicated my life towards how do we provide design and construction services to communities, and over the last almost 15 years, about 2.1 million people have been sheltered by our organization. We worked in 47 countries, and collectively we have about 35,000 building professionals that are dedicated towards doing this work. I have about 100 people that are full-time. You just saw Jason. People like Jason who dedicate their lives to a community to try and make a difference. And then we have city chapters. And these city chapters don't necessarily have to be in Africa or Latin America. Poverty doesn't have a country. It doesn't have a nationality. And it doesn't have a color. We've worked in the reservations for the last decade, and there's a deeper poverty that I've seen in the United States than I've seen anywhere else in the world. And so when we have to look at poverty, you have to remember you don't have to take a flight to see it. And so we have groups that are working in cities around the world, including here in New York, and they represent about 6,000 architects. As you see, we're pretty global. We have offices in Port-au-Prince, Ishinomaki, Japan, San Francisco, Bogota, Colombia, Kigali, Cape Town, and we're about to open an office in Southeast Asia. An important point. There are millions of ideas to change the world, but unless you build it, it doesn't matter. And even worse, when you go into a community with great ideas, and you say, look, we've developed this scenario for you, now all you need to do is go and fundraise and implement the project. It's actually worse than not even showing up. What you've done is provided false hope to a community who desperately need your help. Just because you have an idea to build a school, that doesn't necessarily mean that showing up means that you've done good. So when you're working in communities, you have to make a commitment that you're not just about designing their solution, but building with them. So we're this multidisciplinary team of professionals, not just architects, but engineers, anthropologists, you name it. People who are really dedicated to building a world. We provide professional design services. We've spent a lot of time working in Haiti, and if you were injured by the terrible earthquake there, you don't want a bunch of volunteers who kind of know about medicine to come over and operate on you. And the fact is that earthquakes don't kill people, bad buildings do. So what you don't want is thousands of people coming over and say, well, I know how to put blocks together, and we totally can rebuild this country. The fact is people in Haiti know how to rebuild Haiti, but what they need is the expertise to make sure that you have a resilient future. And it turns out, in the country of Haiti, they have it right there, and the Haitian building professionals know as much as anyone else. So empowering that community is important. So again, building is preeminent in their work, but also thinking about the future and the past. Two projects we did a couple of years ago. One is called the Plastiki. I put this in honor of Fabien. This is a 60-foot catamaran made out of 16,000 PET bottles that sailed from San Francisco to Sydney to raise awareness about the plastic gyres. The reason that boat is really important is it wasn't about how do we allow people to sail across the oceans and talk about plastic issues. It was about how do we create a waste product, the Coke Pepsi bottle, and turn it into a seismically sound construction material. So this isn't about net zero. It's about how do we create a waste into a positive, structurally reinforced building material that can be used in areas of need. On the flip side, we were working in the Swat Valley of Pakistan where we were funded to build 3 tent villages. We realized that in by empowering the local community, we could build bamboo, seismically sound, single-bedroom homes for half the cost of a tent. So instead of asking my funder if I could do that, we just did it. Luckily, they own a search engine company and a mapping company, and we kind of said, you know, go to your map software, zero in on the villages, and sure enough, there were 3 permanent villages. And I was like, oops, we accidentally built permanent villages for the community. So of course, sometimes you can break the rules with funders if it means that you're doing good in a holistic and long-lasting way. Again, focusing on social and economic change is important, but also including cultural heritage. People often mistake sustainability as being technology is the answer, but quite often cultural resistance to your project has to do with you haven't included that cultural sustainability within that. So that happens by embedding your partners. When we commit to a community, I'm not committing to build a building, I'm committing to the personnel. So our architects, engineers, and builders live in the village, live in the tent cities, live in the community until the project's done. And making sure that you have that personnel on the ground that are partnered with locally licensed professionals so that you're setting the benchmark of construction in that community. Second part of that is open sourcing everything. If your focus is on social gain and not financial gain, you shouldn't keep those ideas to yourself. So every project we've done is open sourced, it's under Creative Commons license, and a few years ago at TED, I was able to make a wish about distributing that through IP. So currently there's about 8,000 construction projects that you can download and use in your villages, towns, and communities for free. The other component of incremental design is making sure that you engage communities in the process. That doesn't mean having workshops once a month. That means working in the design and development process and figuring out construction methodologies so you can hire locally. So that means that not just about engagement and empowerment of the building process, but how do you generate jobs? So a big important part of our work is to make sure that jobs are created, whether it be through arts and crafts within the community or sheer construction. This is the nerdy slide. For those who don't know what an architect looks like, it's the little guy with little round rimmed glasses. And so part of the organization is not just to provide the design services, but actually to marry construction capital to the contracting locally. So this is making sure that you manage to create local jobs. And this kind of job creation methodology keeps the village or the town employed. This is something we're now actually doing in the United States to create jobs here. Finally, the other component is it's not how you start up, it's how you stay through. So many people show up in a community with a great idea, they do their little project, and then they're gone. When we commit to a disaster, we commit to a minimum of 5 years. But we also commit to a maximum of 5 years. It's about designing ourselves out of a job. So if you're looking here, this is our team in Haiti. Yves Francois, who's an amazing architect, worked both in New York and Port-au-Prince. He's now going to be leading our office, you can see the office here, for about 85% Haitian construction professionals, the largest architecture firm in the country. And by the end of the year, and this sounds like an odd thing to do, I'm going to shut down the non-profit and turn it into a for-profit. You shouldn't force local professionals to live under an aid blanket. You need to figure out how do we remove the aid mechanism for a country and work ourselves out of it so that social enterprises can grow up and rise. The only reason that many social enterprises fail in these areas is that it's really easy to just throw charity dollars that will undercut those emerging businesses.